Welcome to Azure Community Conference. Today in this session we are going to talk about Azure Governance with Azure Policies and Blueprints. My name is Sagar Sharma. I am Azure Architect at Codit in Netherlands, and let's get started with the session. First of all, we will see that why do we need governance for our Azure infrastructure. There are many reasons. I have listed few here. Let's go through them. Consider a scenario when you have multiple engineering teams who are deploying, working, operating in the same Azure environment. Imagine the if you don't have any governance in place, imagine the mess. Anyone can do anything, and they are just concurrently accessing everything simultaneously. Things are changing. Everything will be out of control, and also it won't be very easy for other people, because it will affect everybody, because everybody is sharing the same environment. Imagine having multiple subscriptions inside those subscriptions, multiple resource group, and then multiple resources. Those thousands of things you have to manage. How will you do it if you don't have a governance service, which from a single place you can monitor everything, control everything? It will be very hectic. Also, if you want to standardize, you want to have some standards, you want to enforce some rules, that can be done using Azure Governance. And also, if you want to enforce some compliance, you want to see the cost control. Also, if you want security or design consistency in your environment, in your infrastructure, then governance is the solution, is the answer to that. We are talking about Azure Governance here, which is primarily about the infrastructure which we are going to set up in the cloud. But what was before Azure Governance? So let's see what is the traditional approach, also on-premise and also in cloud. You have a cloud infrastructure team who is responsible for creating and maintaining those resources and those infrastructures in cloud. And developers generally don't have direct access to that infrastructure. They just give their code, and then the code will be deployed. They never get the first-hand experience on the infrastructure, because it's blocked by the infrastructure people. Now, with having Azure Governance in place, these things switches the place. So developers will now have first-hand experience on the infrastructure. They can see the services, they can create services by themselves, and then still the infrastructure team will be happy, because whatever rules, regulations, and standards they want to be in place on the infrastructure side, they can still have it. They can still have the full control. So that's the flexibility, win-win situation for both. We get using Azure Governance. Now, Azure Governance broadly, if we see, these are some services which are part of Azure Governance portfolio. Out of these, of course, we are only going to talk about two in this session, and I think these two are most important and comprehensive as well. Other services, if you open by yourself in Azure portal, you will get a feel that how you can use them. So let's start with management group. Management group is to define hierarchy of subscriptions. When there was no subscriptions, so the highest level was a subscription, and under subscription you will have resource group and resources. So that was the level of hierarchy you could have. But with management group, you can have n level of hierarchy with the management groups, and on the leaf nodes you can have subscriptions, and then resource groups, and of course resources. So it's very helpful to organize and define a hierarchy of subscriptions and resources. Then policies are real-time enforcement of compliances and assessment and remediation. So it enforces certain rules, standards in real time, and also possible to assess and remediate based on those policies and enforcement. Blueprints are mainly to deploy and create repeatable environment. So you want similar environment for dev, test, production, or maybe for other applications. You define a blueprint for that, and then you keep on reusing it. Blueprint is collection of policies, your artifacts, and also access control. So everything in one package that define your architecture. It can lay the basic foundation, basic infrastructure for an environment, and then you can give it to developers who can utilize that infrastructure by deploying their application or creating resources further. Resource graph is to query, explore, and analyze cloud resources at scale. So from one place, even if you have hundreds of subscription inside that resource groups and resources, from one place you can see all your resources. You can just query them and see based on different properties and fields. Of course, you can query and you can see the results. It's very good for visibility from a single place. Last but not least, cost is very important always. In the cost management, using the cost management module service, we can see how much we are spending, how we can optimize this spending, and also what is the forecast, based on our consumption, what is the forecast which we are going to pay after a certain amount of time. Moving to the next slide, which talks about Azure Governance architecture. This picture shows you where things are placed when it comes to Azure Governance portfolio. Basically, you can see the center of everything is the Azure Resource Manager, your ARM module, which is responsible of creation and updation of the resources. So all the requests of resource creation, updation is handled by your ARM module. Now, having policy engine attached with that will of course validate all your incoming requests. The policy engine will verify if those requests of creation or updation of the resources are adhere with those policies. If yes, then only it will allow further resources creation like virtual machine storage or whatever. As we have already seen that the Graph Explorer is to query, and blueprints are basically a collection of policy definition, rollback access control, and ARM template so that you can create a repeatable environment. If we see what we are getting out of these things, first is environment factory. So we can deploy and update cloud environments in repeatable manner using blueprints. So we define it one time and deploy it multiple times, and it also maintain consistency. That's what we achieve out of that. Policy based control is of course possible. As we saw that policies can be defined, and then policies will be effective in real time. It will enforce on your existing resources and also new resources in real time, and also on ad hoc basis. And of course, resource visibility using Azure Resource Graph. Now, as we know that in this session we are only going to talk about Azure Policies and Azure Blueprints. Let's start with our first part, which is Azure Policies. With Azure Policies, we get following things: enforcement and compliance, of course. So we can use built-in policies and also create our custom policies for all kind of resources. And those policies will help us to enforce certain standards, certain compliance things. And the real-time policy evaluation and enforcement is possible. Also, periodic and on-demand compliance evaluation is also possible. We will see different type of policies later on this session, like by example what we can achieve and what are the possibilities, what are the capabilities of Azure Policies. We can apply Azure Policies at a scale, and now that is scale in two way. First of all, we can apply policies at management group level, which will have multiple subscriptions inside that, and then resource groups and resources. So that's possible. And also we can aggregate multiple policies into a policy initiative and then apply it to any level, like from management group to subscription to resources. So it's also possible to group policies and create an initiative. Exclusion scopes are also there. So if you want to exclude a certain subscription or resource group or resource from your policy enforcement, that you can do using exclusion scope. We will see that in demo. Remediation and automation is also possible. So let's consider an example that you come to know about Azure Policies today only, and before today also you had an Azure environment, you had infrastructure there. And today now you know about policies, you are going to create policies. Of course, policies will take care of your further deployment. So whatever you are going to deploy, first it will get validated against your policy engine, and only after that your request creation, updation request will be served. But it also supports remediation of the existing resources, and that too at a scale. So at single place you can see that okay, these resources are not compliant, and then you can create automatic remediation tasks. Also for existing resources, and of course also at the time of deployment for the new resources. It also triggers alerts based on the auditing you are doing against your compliance or policies. Time for a demo. Let's go to Azure portal and see policies in action. In order to access policies, first of all we need to go for so in order to access the policies, you just need to type policy in your Azure portal, and this is the welcome screen, home screen of policies. Of course, you can see multiple options here, right from compliance, remediation to assignment, definition, and exemption. We will start with the definition. So this is the place where you will find definition of your Azure policies. Let them be inbuilt or custom created by you. So there are hundreds of built-in policies available. Also there is a GitHub repository. I will share the link later in the session where you can see the definition of inbuilt policies. Of course these inbuilt policies are very comprehensive and covers most of the scenarios, but still you have flexibility to create your own policy that you can create from scratch, or also you can just extend an existing policy, use that as a base, and then tweak it for your own purpose. For the demo purpose, because this is the first time talking about policies, we will do a very simple one. So this is about require a tag on resource group, which means that whenever you are going to deploy or create a new resource group, a tag must be present there, and which tag that we will see. So in this screen you can see this is the policy definition. This is how a policy definition looks like. We will see it in detail, that what is the meaning of different sections. Of course you can duplicate the definition as I explained you before. It's possible to duplicate and then extend the definition. For now we will just assign it. As you can see that the effect of this policy is deny, which means if a request is not adhering with the policy, then it will deny execution of that request. Let's click on assign. First thing, we need to define a scope, that at what level you want to assign this policy. I don't have any management group for demo, so we will start from the subscription. Of course you can go further down and choose a resource group also, but I want to apply this policy at subscription level. Let's select it. Exclusions are possible. So this is the exclusion scope which we were talking about. If I want to exclude any resource or resource group, I can define them here. I'll leave it empty for now. Of course you can change the name of assignment, put some description. It's enabled. Now the second thing is parameters. What are parameters? So it's possible to parameterize your policy definitions, which means certain things you don't have to define during the definition authoring of policy, but you can really define that or mention that parameter value at the time of assignment. In this case, which tag you want to be present when you create a resource group. I want created by, who created this resource group. Click on next. This is not needed for now. Remediation, we will see it later, and I'll simply click on create. So this assignment has been successful. Now let's go in assignments. Here we can see that this assignment has been applied. This is one policy, not an initiative, and the scope is my subscription. Right from the definition, it's also possible to create an initiative, define an initiative, and basically initiative we can add multiple policies. So we can add multiple policies, and all these policies will be can be assigned at the same time. So this is also a nice thing if you want to do it at scale. You can of course check compliance against your assigned policy, if your resources are compliant or not. And in the remediation, basically you can create automatic remediation task to you know, like to remediate if something is not aligned with your policies. Now we will go back to home page. We'll try to create a resource group. I have no resource group in this subscription. Let's try to create one. We'll call it AzConfDev2020. I'll place it into closest proximity to my location, Amsterdam, and yeah, I'll just create it. So ideally, of course, when it was validating the request, it should throw an error, but it didn't. I don't know, maybe product team is working upon that, but in my opinion, the error should be thrown when it validates your ARM template, but it's fine. But the creation failed, and if I click here, I can see a raw error, and this will tell me that what is the policy, require a tag on resource groups, which actually denied this resource creation. So this resource group was disallowed by policy. Now of course we know that this policy needs a tag to be attached to each resource groups, then only it will allow the resource creation. So I'll put created by tag here, the value of my name, and now let's try to create it. Validation passed just like before, but this time creations should also successful. Yes, so resource group has been created now. So you see how using a policy you could apply certain standards. Now, you know, let me take you back to policies. Let me show you some of the policies, of course. So yeah, again I'll start with a very simple one. So tags. Okay, so for example, you require a tag, maybe for department, maybe for tracking purpose, project name, or maybe for billing purpose. So you can enforce it using a policy. You can also inherit tags from resource group on resources. So whenever you create a resource in certain resource group, the tag which is present on resource group should be inherited to resource itself. That's also possible using it. And then of course, if you want to have some naming standards, if you want to restrict that your resources should be created only into a certain region, maybe to follow GDPR or any restriction or some restrictions of your organization, that should not be hosted outside Europe or anything or something like that. It's also possible to limit resource creation only on certain size and SKUs. All these things are possible, and if you don't find them here, you can create your own custom policy. So practically you could do, you know, whatever you think of a validation and rule. It's possibly achievable using Azure policies. Now what I will do, I will go to assignments and I will delete this assignment so that it doesn't interfere us in rest of the demo. So when you delete an assignment, basically you can see that I have no policy assigned. Yeah, so now we will move back to presentation. Moving to next slide. Now we have seen from high level and from the portal how it works, but how it works behind the scene, what is actually happening when you assign a policy and after that when you try to create a request. So of course you see here that there is a user or it can be a code. So from the portal or from your ARM template, you try to create a resource. So you send a resource creation request, resource config request to your ARM module. That ARM module has a policy engine inside it. So your request will be validated. So of course these are the declaratives. So you know, when do you want to have those policies evaluated? You see the third one, which is on demand, says coming soon, but by the time we are you know, like this session is happening, this is already there. So I need to remove this. So basically whenever a request of resource creation or updation comes to ARM module, it will be first validated by your Azure policy engine. that policy engine will see whether the request adhere to the policies. If it doesn't, then it will simply drop that request and further actions won't be allowed. But in the same way, if you send a request which adhere to all the policies, then resource creation or updation will be allowed and it will take effect on your infrastructure. Also, as I mentioned, when you have multiple resources or resources which were created before you had policies, it's also possible to have a periodic or on-demand scan of the resources against your policy, and then your policy will audit and say what resources are compliant and what are not. Now, for the resources which are not compliant, either you can simply have an alert, or maybe you can see an audit report, or maybe you can also create a remediation task which will make your resource compliant with your Azure policy. Moving to next slide, which is the policy language. So here we will see that what are the different sections within a policy. So here you can see a simple policy will look like if and then. So if will hold your conditions, that on what condition you want to apply that policy validation, and then will basically have the effect that what you want to do out of what you want to do if certain conditions are matched. So in effect, we saw in the demo, the policy which we assigned was to deny a resource creation if it doesn't have a certain tag. So that was the effect deny. You can also have effect audit if you just want to audit it, append if you want to add something into your ARM template. Audit if not exist and deploy if not exist are very interesting one and also powerful. They are the new addition to your policy language. We will also see them in detail in later slides. Then of course you have various operators. So how many conditions, what kind of conditions you want to evaluate? Do you want to have a not, or you want to have all the condition true, or you want just any one condition to be true? And then you can use different fields, name of resource or kind of resource, type of resource, location or name or text, whatever. And conditions can have operators like equal, like, match, contain, in, exist, contains key, those kind of things. We will see some definitions by example so that we know that how to use these things. This is the simplest policy definition, and this policy definition you can see if not field tag contains key cost center, means if your tag field or if your tag doesn't have cost center tag, does not have a cost center tag, then the effect should be denied, then the resource creation shouldn't be allowed. This is to enforce a naming convention. So this will not allow the resource creation if the name of the resource is not like this pattern. So if you want to have some prefix or some suffix in your resource name, for example, you want your all resource group should end with -rg, then this is the way to achieve it. You can simply enforce it, and then whoever will create a resource group on their subscription or resource, it will be automatically applied to all the requests, and people have to adhere with the standard. Simply moving to the next one, which allows creation of VM of a certain SKU of A series VMs only basically. So here you can see within if you see all of, which means there are multiple conditions and all of those conditions should be true. So the first condition is if the type of resource creation is virtual machine, then your virtual machine SKU should be in this list, within this list, otherwise deny creation of that virtual machine. Moving to next example, which is to enforce VM SKUs using parameters. We have already seen this in demo that it's possible that you can parameterize your policy definition and then define those parameter value during the time of assignment, not at the time of when you are writing the policy definition. So in this case, what we have done different from the last example, the list of allowed SKU, we have parameterized it. So now when you assign the policy, that time you have to mention mention the list of allowed SKU. This parameterization is very useful because having this in place, you can basically reuse your policy definition at multiple places even if the value of the parameters are different. So this really helps to make it more reusable, your policies. As I mentioned during the demo, that there is a GitHub repository also available with a definition of policies, and people who want to contribute towards community, they can also go and create policies there. You can also find the policy definitions which are already present in the portal under inbuilt category. This is that GitHub repo, so you can just go and have a look at it. Now, these two policy effects which we saw in earlier slide, audit if not exist, that this triggers an evaluation on the resources, also on the child resources, and it will audit them, it will list them, it will log them, and also you can have alerts on top of it. Deploy if not exist is basically a mechanism to automatically deploy a template, a sub-template along with your original template. So for example, you want to deploy anti-malware extension whenever you create a VM, or for example, you want to have a network watcher resources whenever you create a virtual network. Or the most common scenario where I have used deploy if not exist, and that's very useful and powerful at the same time, is whenever I generally have a policy that whenever somebody is creating a resource in your resource group, the log analytics should be automatically enabled on it. So as part of my blueprint definition, I have some basic infrastructure like storage, log analytics, and all these things. And when people are creating a resource by themselves, it will automatically inject the deploy if not exist if type of effect will automatically inject log analytics configuration for that resource within your resource creation request. Let's move to the second part, which is Azure Blueprints. We have already talked a lot about it, so you have a basic idea about why we use blueprints. So blueprints enables quick and repeatable creation of a fully governed environment. It streamlines your environment creation, because first of all you can do it from a centralized place using templates. Those templates you can change it at one place and then you can reuse it. Within a blueprint you can have resources, policies, RBAC, all the things. So it's very comprehensive. And then also versioning is possible of those blueprints, so you can simply version your blueprints, and you can basically maintain the versioning and everything from the single place. It enables compliant development. It gives power to developers first of all to use fully governed environments by themselves. So if you have a blueprint in place to create an environment, then developer will have everything basic. Maybe you want API management, storage account for logging, log analytics, all these things to be present. So it's very consistent. You define it once that this is what I call an environment, and all these resources are basic common infrastructure, and you can define them into a blueprint. It's also possible to quickly create multiple development environments into multiple subscriptions from a centralized location. And locking is also possible on the resources. So what happens, there are different type of locks associated when you assign a blueprint definition. Basically you can say that whatever resources has been created, it can be resources or policies or access control, whatever has been created out of this blueprint cannot be deleted, which means even if a person is owner on the subscription, he cannot change those things, he cannot delete those things. Or you can also have a configuration like when those resources are read-only, so you cannot even change the configuration of those resources. That's also possible. We will see that in demo. Azure Blueprints, as I mentioned a couple of times now, that it contains your RBAC, your access control definition, it contains your policy definition, and it also contains ARM templates, so basically to create resources and resource groups. and then those blueprints can be applied at multiple places, at multiple level to subscription. Let's see it in action now. Yeah, let's go to Azure portal and see blueprints in action. Similar to policies, I'll just type blueprint here and you will be presented with the home screen of the blueprints. Azure blueprints are still in preview, but I would say they are quite stable because I have used them in last couple of assignments and they work pretty much okay. Similar to policies, first we need to define the blueprint definition, and then we can assign the blueprints and also maintain versioning over here. So let's get started with the blueprint creation. Of course, there are various templates available to create blueprints also, and these templates are basically either outcome of a compliance, a standard which you want to follow, or few things to make your development or environment easy, for example some basic networking or some common policies and these kind of things. But for demo purpose we will start with blank template so that you can see everything from scratch. I will call this blueprint AzConf blueprint. Yeah, let's see. And I will store the definition. As I mentioned earlier, I don't have anything top of my subscription, so I will start with subscription. I'll select it and then either we can save a draft now or we can move to next step to add artifacts. Now because the highest level which I have is subscription, so everything I can add under the subscription only, not beyond that. In this demo, let's try to create some common infrastructure for a basic environment. So for example, you are into a cloud infrastructure team, and whenever a request comes to you that you need to create a new environment for a certain team, you have this blueprint to create all basic resources, access things in your new environment. So I would like to have first of all maybe a policy, why not, that I need a tag just like we did before, so that will be handy and also also useful because this is a very common scenario. So here I mentioned add a tag to resources. So whatever resource you create, there should be a tag present, and I'm thinking while creating it, maybe we can have a tag of created by, and it should have a value system, because it's created by system, basically automatically, it's not created by individuals. So that tag also I want to give certain permission to certain people. For example, whenever a new environment is created, your infrastructure team should always have admin access, owner access, or maybe certain people, I don't know, maybe from auditing or whatever, they should always have reader access, and your developer should always have contributor access. All these kind of things, you need not to do them manually, just define them here as a role assignment. So what I want to assign for demo purpose, I will keep it reader. So I want to assign a reader role to, it can be a user, it can be an Azure Active Directory app registration, or it can be a group, but I will parameterize it here, and then we will specify the value when the blueprint will be assigned. So I will leave it empty for now. Next, I'll create a resource group to have a common resources within it. Resource group, display name will be common infra resource group. Resource group name I will give it during the assignment. Also location, no tag, I'll add it. Within this resource group, I also want to have certain resources, for example log analytics, or maybe a storage account which can store your logs. You can offload the logs there. Okay, so storage account ARM template. Let's go to the GitHub and grab this ARM template to create a storage account in Azure your Azure environment. I'll paste it. Of course, we don't need output because it's being deployed by Blueprint, and I don't need it. Let me see what are the parameters. So it has two parameters. First parameter is your storage account type. We'll see that what SKU we want to use, and second is the location. So location also we will mention it during the time of assignment, and it's simply name. It's creating it automatically by concatenation of store with the unique string of your resource group ID. So that's good. That seems okay. What should be the artifact display name? Maybe common storage account. Yeah, that's simple. And as we already know, these are two parameters, and we will specify them during the time of Blueprint assignment. Yeah, I'll click on add. So now in this Blueprint, what you have a tag. You can have multiple. You have a policy. You can have multiple policies. You have a role assignment. Yeah, and then you also have a common resource group. And inside that resource group, you also have some common resources which you want to create. Now, I will save it as draft. And be very careful when you click on save draft. This is a bug. It takes a couple of seconds to show you a message. So you should not keep on clicking save draft button. So our Blueprint has been saved, as you can see. Now we see that the definition of Blueprint has been saved in draft version. Next step is to assign it. Before assigning a Blueprint, we need to publish it because it's in draft version as of now. So I click on publish Blueprint. When you publish it, you need to define a version for versioning purpose, of course. Click on publish. So after you have clicked on publish, now you can see assign Blueprint option. I'll click on assign. So similarly, we can change the assignment name here. The location, again, I'll keep it to West Europe. Version is 1. As of now, we only have version. This is the lock assignment which I was talking about. So do not lock the resources, which means, even if those resources or policies or access controls are were created by a Blueprint, you can still change them. Do not delete means you cannot delete them, and read only means you cannot change any configuration on those resources as well. I'll keep it to do not lock for the demo purpose, because generally it take like 30 minutes to enforce the locks. So anyway, we won't be able to see that within the demo. So I'll keep it with no lock. And then it comes to artifact parameters. Let's define all the parameters. First of all, to who you want to assign a reader role, you can give an AAD app, a service principal, a user, or a user group. I'll give it to my colleague Vincent. And which tag you want to be present, it should be created by, and the value should be, as we discussed earlier, not discussed, I said it was one way. I should be system, and the resource group name is common infra RG. You can also have a prefix of, generally I have like a project name or customer name as a prefix to resource group. And the location, again, West Europe. This is good for demo. And I'll again West Europe. So as you saw, that is also possible that in the parameter of your ARM template, you can define possible list of values, so that when people are assigning your Blueprint, they can only choose it from certain values. So that's also a good thing. You can have certain restriction even if you have parameterization. I click on assign. This assignment takes time. So first of all, it will create the assignment, then it will be in waiting, then it will go deploying, and then it will succeed. So it will take time. It may take a couple of minutes. Let me go to Blueprint assignments and see it's in waiting stage as of now. Then it will be deploying, and after that it will it will be succeed. So we will wait for a couple of minutes. Let's check if yeah, it succeeds. So the blueprint has been deployed. Now we can go to home resource group, and we can see, yes, this resource group has been created. Inside that, why I don't see a storage account yet? Maybe it's in progress. Also, let's see the access control. If Vincent, yeah, Vincent has reader role now, so he can, and it's inherited from subscription. So if you remember, in the definition of the blueprint, we actually let me just open the definition. If you see, the role was assigned at the subscription level, and the resource was created within the subscription. The resource has not been created yet. Let's check why so. I'll go to deployment. There is no deployment at all, so I'm not sure why it was not triggered. Let's go back to our blueprint definition, and in the definition, I think definition was correct. Yeah, let's go to artifact, this one, schema. Yeah, this looks correct. Also, there were two parameters, and in the parameters, when we assigned, we gave the right value, I guess. It says that a storage account has been created. Oh, the resource group is different, so we are looking at probably different resource group. So yeah, maybe it's a problem of it's not refreshing or something. No, I can still see only one resource group. I am in the right subscription, I assume. So the blueprint assignment is saying that it has been assigned successfully, and it has also created the reader role, the contributor for itself, so that it can change things. Itself means the blueprint itself. It also created this policy and this resource group, and also the storage account, which has store and a random string, and also none of them are logged. It succeed. Why it not showing? Maybe I was too optimistic when I was saying that even if it's in preview version, it just works. No, it works. It works. maybe taking a couple of minutes. Let's just wait. Let's see what is the problem. I cannot still see that resource group. Let's go back to blueprints, assigned blueprints, assignment detail. Let's click on the storage account. Yes, it does exist. You can see the storage account. Everything is correct. It's in the same subscription, also in this resource group. If I click on resource group, yeah, I see the resource group. I also see the storage account inside it. The storage account, I also see the tag which we applied. But that's very strange that I can see it from here. Let me go to the subscription. Maybe there we can see it. Resource groups. No, I only see, I don't know, some bug. There is some problem with the Azure portal, seems like. Here we cannot see that resource group. There is no filter, nothing, but still we can't see it. But of course we can see it from search is not working. There is indeed some problem. Maybe I chose wrong time to use Azure portal. Yeah, it shows the resource group here now, and also the storage account. But then why it's not showing it here in the list of resource groups? And it's also showing it in the blueprints. Assignment, resources are there. This is the storage account. I assume the storage account is working fine. Absolutely. Yeah, everything is just fine. It's just that it's not visible from storage account, from resource groups pane. You can also see it in recent resources. Everything is there. No problem. You have seen the demo, and simply like we did for policies, you can also assign unassign the blueprints. When you unassign the blueprint and you don't have any lock, remember that it won't delete the resources which you have created. All resources created by the blueprint will remain in the subscription. But if you have lock, then that's a different thing. With the lock, you can, of course, your resources will also be affected. They will also be deleted. I have deleted the definition also. Let's go back to our presentation. Oh, well, this is virtual, so you cannot ask any question, but you can, of course, have my blog address, my Twitter account, my LinkedIn account, and also my email ID. So if you have any question regarding the session or something else which was not covered in the session, feel free to get in touch. Thank you very much for joining the session, and I wish you all the best.